Coming up on today's show, an instant reaction after the Texans win on Sunday Night Football, 19-13 up against the Chicago Bears. Hi, I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs. Welcome in to Texans Today. Let's get right into the game action as the Texans, they won a nail-biter in one where, CJ Stroud's numbers don't look too bad. 23 of 36, 260 yards and one tutty. Obviously, Texans were not able to get anything on the ground. Cam Akers, the leading ball carrier, 7 carries for 32 yards, but he was taken out after a costly fumble at the goal line. But the Texans kept on shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over again, allowing this Bears team to stick around throughout the entire game. And the defense, hats off to DeMeco Ryans and this defense and how they performed in this Week 2 matchup, because that's what won this Texans football team the game. This defense stepped up time and time again when they absolutely needed to against a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams, the number 1 overall pick from this past year's draft, and they were able to contain him. They were able to make him, make multiple mistakes throughout the game that kept this Texans team in it. The offense, though, a rough outing in Week 1. You know who else had a rough outing in Week 1? The refs. The refs, we're going to talk about it here in 1 second, but if you watch the game, I want to hear it from you. One word to describe the refs' game, how they were officiating tonight. Let me know down in the comment section. I want to know, am I overreacting? Am I out of bounds with what I'm about to say? Let me know your thoughts, though, down below. How do you think the refs officiated this game tonight? Was it fair? Do you think they did a good job? Let me know down in the comment section. The refs sucked. The refs were awful, and this is coming from somebody whose team won the game. The Texans won 19-13, and I will say it again, these refs were a freaking joke over and over and over again. In the first half, I can think of multiple occasions where the Texans got screwed up by the refs. The Stephon Diggs play where he reaches for the first down and they mark him 3 or 4 yards short of the line to gain. The Texans, they end up having to challenge it. They concur that they did misspot the ball, but it wasn't close enough to the first down to where they actually ruled it was a first down, so the Texans still lost the timeout. I know that was a lot, but I'm glad you're still with me. Tyreek Stevenson poked Nico Collins in the eye. Nico Collins pushes him back. They end up calling a 15-yard personal foul on Nico Collins. Luckily, he scored a touchdown the very next play. But besides that, the Bears were on their own 30-yard line, went for it on 4th and 1 with Khalil Herbert up the middle. They were short, and they marked him with a first down. Didn't even give it a second glance. Didn't even look at it twice. The refs were horrendous tonight. And the Texans, they still got the dub. If I'm a Bears fan, I'm pissed too. I'm saying this on both sides of the coin here. Texans and Bears fans should both be upset with how this game was officiated tonight. I'll say it right now. Azeez Al-Shire, he has a hefty fine coming for him. I love the way he played tonight. I love his tenacity. But that boneheaded play on the sidelines that he had after hitting Caleb Williams, where he punched Roschon Johnson in the face, he headbutted another Bears player. What are you doing, man? You're the captain of this defense. You are our middle linebacker, and you're making plays like that? You can't do that, man. You simply cannot make those plays. If this was a playoff game, if this was a clutch situation for this Texans defense, and then they lose you, their best linebacker on the team, for the rest of the game, that's a dumb play. So the refs on both sides of the football, they absolutely stunk up the joint all night long. I'd have to say this was a D+ game by the refs in tonight's game. I'll get into more Texans Bears in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. For good reason. They have over 5 million active users because it is the easiest and best way to play daily fantasy sports. Football, it's back. And Prize Picks is the place where you can turn your football knowledge into cold, hard cash. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. And, the numbers, they were not on my side tonight. I had a Prize Picks that, I'll say it. The Texans offense kind of shit the bed a little bit tonight, and my Prize Picks totally went up in smoke for it. I obviously got the Caleb Williams 0.5 yards. They're running that special next week, so continue to play Caleb Williams on your lineups. But Joe Mixon, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, Not very good. But I'm going to play next week on Prize Picks regardless because it is fun. I was following the game along the entire time, trying to see if I could hit my Prize Picks. Obviously, I wasn't able to, but it's okay because they have a great deal on tap for you right now. Whenever you head over to Prize Picks and you put in code CLNS, you instantly get a $50 bonus when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. What's stopping you from getting started today with the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there? Prize Picks, run your game. Now, I do have to get into this. Joe Mixon was injured in this game, had an ankle injury. I'm looking at the latest updates right now. They're going to go ahead and, obviously have him go into the, medical team tomorrow to kind of see how that ankle is going. He was able to return to the game, and then he was out of the game. He was on the sidelines working it. He was on the bike. He was testing out his ankle on the sidelines. I think it was more of a precautionary measure, but Joe Mixon injured. He was out of the game. Cam Akers, that's why he was in the game, and he ended up fumbling at the 5-yard line. So the Joe Mixon impact of him not being in the game was very detrimental to this Texans team. I'll keep you updated with his injury status throughout the rest of the week. I don't expect him to practice at least on Monday or Tuesday, maybe even Wednesday of this week. He might be a game-time decision for Week 3 up against the Minnesota Vikings. So that means we already have Dameon Pierce who's injured. Possibly Cam Akers will need to step up again after that costly fumble. Possibly we saw Agumba Wale get some snaps as well. Maybe even British Brooks, a fan favorite. But like I said, Joe Mixon, ankle injury, was able to come back in, then was not in the game. So I'll keep you updated throughout this week with the latest around Joe Mixon. Next up, let's talk about CJ Stroud, the quarterback, the QB1 of your team. 23-36, 260 yards, 1 touchdown. Played pretty good. I will say, not CJ's best game. Him and Tank Dell were not simpatico tonight. They were not, very well connected with each other. A couple of missed throws, maybe some, mistimed routes by Tank Dell. Maybe he wasn't running the correct routes, or maybe he wasn't running the correct depth on a couple of routes. But him and CJ Stroud were not connected, and Tank Dell also dropped a, wide open flutter pass from CJ Stroud over the middle that would have been a huge gain for this Texans offense. But him and Tank Dell were not connected. And I did think CJ Stroud, the next level to his game, the next maturation of his game is he needs to be better pre-snap, being able to adjust his coverages on the offensive line and help them out a little bit with, IDing blitzes, maybe, doing some more stuff at the line of scrimmage. Texans on offense also shot themselves on the foot with plenty of false starts. I mean, Laremy Tunsil, the left tackle, needs to step up. He's a top 5 tackle in this league, especially pass blocking. You cannot have the false starts. That is a backbreaker when you're trying to drive the ball on offense. You know who did have a great game, though? Nico freaking Collins. I will continue to say this. Possibly the steal of the offseason, the best signing the Texans made, the best signing maybe any NFL team made this entire offseason. They extended Nico Collins 3 years, and he's not even getting top 10 money as a wide receiver. Guys are getting paid left and right. Buku's amount of money. I mean, CeeDee Lamb just got a mega contract. A.J. Brown got a huge contract. We're seeing all these guys getting paid, and Nico Collins is putting up numbers like this. He's looking like a legit #1 receiver in this league. 8 receptions, 135 yards, a touchdown. After he gets poked in the eye, comes back the very next play after getting that personal foul. Comes back the very next play. A grown man route through the middle of the Bears defense. Runs over 3 guys into the end zone. Excellent performance by Nico Collins tonight. He deserves a helmet sticker. He deserves maybe possibly the MVP of tonight's game, other than my MVP, which I'll tell you at the end of today's show. But if you haven't already, go down and hit that sub button for daily Texans content all year long. I got you covered. More live shows to come in the future. Like I said, I'll keep you updated with the latest injury updates throughout the season. So I got you covered. No need to fear around anything around the Houston Texans. I got you. Let's talk about Stephon Diggs. 4 receptions for 37 yards, no touchdowns for Diggs. He had a nice play whenever the Texans, it was 3rd down. They needed a 1st down to continue the drive, and Stephon Diggs, nice toe tap. Actually, the Bears, they challenged the play and ended up losing a timeout in the first half. Maybe that's a reason why they didn't, challenge another play in the future. Or they ended up challenging the Kyler Gordon and missed that one too. But Stephon Diggs was there. Like I said, CJ Stroud was a little bit off tonight. Wasn't his best game. I'll say it. I love CJ Stroud just as much as the next guy. But CJ Stroud, I think he'll admit it too, played like a B game, a B- game for his standards, maybe even a C+ game for CJ Stroud. But I wouldn't fret. I mean, the Bears defense is really good. They have one of the best secondaries in the entire National Football League. So I'm not hitting the panic button just yet. But I do think CJ Stroud, this offense, needs to take a look in the mirror and say, hey, we have all these weapons. We're a highly touted offense. We're getting all this hype, but we need to deliver. We need to make sure that we're on our P's and Q's and we're able to make plays when our team needs it, because they're lucky this defense was able to step up time and time again. Dalton Schultz was injured throughout the entire week, but then was able to come in and play. We saw some of him throughout the game, but I will mention these tight ends are being rotated heavily. Cade Stover getting a ton of work, the rookie out of Ohio State, getting a ton of work at fullback and at tight end. Same with Brevin Jordan. So these three tight ends are in a healthy rotation between all three. I don't know if that's because Dalton Schultz was dealing with the injury. Also, Dalton Schultz, huge play, a 16-yard catch that brought them down to the 5-yard line. Would have been bigger, and we would have been talking about Dalton Schultz even more highly in this game, possibly, if Cam Akers doesn't fumble the ball there at the 5-yard line. Let's talk about the Bears. Let's talk about Caleb Williams. 23 of 37, 174 yards, and 2 picks on the day for Caleb Williams. I mean, the Texans defense got after it. And I said it in my preview. I said, you know what? DeMeco Ryans likes to get after offenses with 4 guys. But they are going to send different pressures, exotic blitzes against Caleb Williams because he's a rookie. And he can't handle the pressure as well as other quarterbacks that can then go ahead and pick you apart if you send in pressure and they are able to, evade the rush or do whatever. Caleb Williams was able to get out of a couple sacks. He was sacked a ton. He was hit a ton by the Texans defense. They really roughed him up in his first visit to Houston. But he ended up making some dumb mistakes that really helped out this Texans team. There was not many times that you get 2 interceptions on your first game in the league. Kamari Lassiter did just that. DJ Moore, 6 receptions for 53 yards, no touchdowns, 19 yards was the long. He was upset visibly with the play of Caleb Williams. Bears were also not able to get anything on the ground. DeAndre Swift, 14 carries for 18 yards. This Texans run defense looked fantastic. And I'd be remiss to say Henry To'oTo'o isn't one of the MVPs of this game. If I had to give out some MVPs, I'll give out some MVPs in just a moment. I'll give my 4 or 5 people that I think really stood out the most for this Texans team. But I want to hear from you. How do you feel about this team after tonight's game? Do you feel better? Do you feel worse? Let me know down in the comment section. My final thoughts coming up, but I want to hear from you folks at home first. So go down in the comment section. Let your voice be heard. I want to hear what you have to say because it's Chat Sports. It's not Jeremy Sports. It's that 1-2 dialogue. I want to hear from Texans fans out there. How do you feel about this team? My final thoughts on this game was this Texans team escaped Houston with a W tonight. They had the crowd. The crowd was a major factor. If you were at NRG Stadium for this Sunday night football game, props to you because you caused so many penalties on the Bears' offensive side of the football. They had so many false starts. It was a sloppy game on both sides. The Texans, they had multiple penalties. The Bears had multiple penalties. But I think this Texans team really needs to shore a couple of things up. I really do think the defense, I said it, before week 1, the Texans are going to shock the world. And there's going to be 3 things that shock them. How much Joe Mixon is used. We didn't really get to see that tonight because he got injured. Number 2 was how good this defense was. And I said it then, and I might say it now. I think at the end of the year, we might see the Texans defense being higher ranked, being more higher thought of than the Texans offense. This Texans defense, Henry To'oTo'o, one of my stars of the game, he looked amazing at the linebacker spot. Will Anderson Jr. had a hell of a game. Should have had 3 sacks on the day up against this Bears offensive line, which not the best, but still Will Anderson Jr. looked like an absolute animal. Danielle Hunter as well. And then Kamari Lassiter on the back end, he had an interception in today's game, and so did Derek Stingley. So this defense looked fantastic, and I think they saved the butts of the Houston Texans today because if they didn't show out, if they didn't show up, this Texans team could have very well lost the game. I mean, the Bears had the ball with a minute and a half left, down by 6 points. They could have easily drove the ball down and scored, but this defense really bowed up. They really showed their stuff and was able to get the Texans this dub. I mean, another star of this game, maybe not thought of, Kaimi Fairbairn. He hit multiple deep field goals to get this Texans team the lead. I mean, the Texans, they only scored 1 touchdown. Besides that, they had 4 field goals. 1 touchdown and 4 field goals. One of them right before the half from about 58, 59 yards, and Kaimi stuck it. He had injury issues last year. He had some problems last season, but he looked fantastic. He looked like one of the best kickers in the league. And if you're a team that's trying to contend, especially in December, January, you need a kicker in those clutch situations. And I feel good about having Kaimi Fairbairn on our sideline. I think the Texans, obviously they have some stuff to work out. Juice Scruggs, I think it's safe to say he's the starting center moving forward. Jarrett Patterson let up a couple sacks on some stunts through the middle of that Texans offensive line. Need to clean up the penalties. Need to play better on the offensive side of the football. But overall, a win is a win is a win is a win. You get a win in the National Football League every time, it's going to be a hard-fought game for you. Almost every time it's going to be a hard-fought game for you. The Texans, they got to win. They're 2-0. The rest of the AFC South, 0-2. So, Texans still looking great inside the division. Make sure to follow me on social media, on X at Jeremy Chuggs, on Instagram at Texans Today Chat Sports. I made a brand new Instagram, so if you want to go follow me over there, I'm putting out short form videos, some highlight type stuff, some cool edits. Check me out over there. And if you want to be a cool kid and follow me over on the TikTok at Jeremy Chuggs, got 86 followers, going strong. Kind of like my IG, I got some cool clips. I might do some, rankings of some wide receivers, quarterbacks here and there on my TikTok, but always, my DMs are open to all you Texans fans. If you want to hit me up, if you want to talk some ball, if you want to chop it up, I'm always down to hit up any of my Texans fans, any of my loyal subscribers, any of my loyal viewers to always chop it up around Texans football. I'll be back throughout this week with more Texans videos, more injury updates. I got you covered. Another reason why you got to hit that subscribe button and never miss a moment of Texans football here at Texans Today.